We had a bunch of those conference bags, the networking break, commissioner's reception, the golf tournament. Weaver Consultants really did a fantastic job helping us out with that golf tournament. So whenever you get a chance to go speak with them, mention the golf tournament and how awesome it was. We had 72 golfers. So a really successful experience there. So I'd also like to bring your attention over here, the right side, stage right, and introduce our student scholarship finalists. So would you like to introduce yourself, sir?
Absolutely. Hello, everybody. My name is Chance Morris. I go to Tennessee Technological University. I am a rising senior, and my research is on water remediation of cadmium. So if you guys are interested throughout the day, I'll be in here kind of moseying about, and please come check me out. So.
And And our second finalist?
Hi, my name is Claire Wilson. I'm a master's student at the University of South Carolina. My master's thesis was an evaluation of South Carolina drinking water across access, quality, and affordability. I will also be here throughout the day, and I would love to speak to y'all about this project.
Last question I'd like to ask you, are you guys hireable? They're absolutely hireable, just FYI. So we're pretty excited. And I would like to go ahead and hand it off to our MC, the finest one around the world, I must say. She's actually elevated her status since yesterday. So thanks again, Amy Ketcher.
Oh, thanks, David. Okay, yesterday he called me the best in the nation. So I don't know, by this afternoon, what it's going to be, universe? Man, I don't know. All right, thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. And I know it's the morning. It's early in the morning, and I'm guessing a lot of you had fun yesterday at that commissioner's reception. Did you try the shrimp and grits? That was amazing. That was my favorite thing. I see some nodding there. That was incredible. So I hope you're having a great time. I hope you enjoyed all of the sessions you attended yesterday, the opening plenary, all of the breakout sessions, and I hope you're going to have a great time today because we have a great way to kick off day 2 of Tensos 2022, and I hope you're having a great time right here in the Scenic City. As David mentioned, my name is Amy Ketcher. I work for the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation, the Division of Solid Waste Management, but of course, I get the honor of starting with you here, right here, today, getting things started by introducing our amazing opening plenary. You know, Chattanooga, Nashville, and Tennessee state parks all have ideal, sweeping, and sophisticated sustainability programs that guide our communities to create more livable and healthy societies while continuing to improve economic conditions as well as climate resiliency for all community members. It's not only environmental considerations, like you may expect, that make these sustainability programs a success, but it's also new processes and partnerships that are required to accomplish these goals. Leaders of the Chattanooga, Nashville, and Tennessee State Park Sustainability and Resiliency programs are here with us this morning to describe their programs and highlight their goals, their major initiatives, and to let us know how we can avoid some of the common challenges that could pop up on the journey to sustainability. So you'll see us joined right here on the stage. We have Kendra Abkowitz-Brooks, a Ph.D. She serves as the Chief Sustainability and Resilience Officer with the City of Nashville and Davidson County. That's where she is now after leaving us at TDEC. Gosh, it's so good to see you again, Kendra. We also have Robin Peeler, the Area Manager with Tennessee State Parks. Also, Eric Schmidt, Director of Sustainability for the City of Chattanooga, and Michael Walton, the Executive Director of Green Spaces, and David Owenby is serving as our moderator this morning, so I am going to turn it over to our fabulous panel to get us started. Take it away.
Thanks, Amy. Good morning, everyone. My name is David Owenby. I have the pleasure of being the moderator for this panel, and one of the benefits of being a person of a certain age is you've been around long enough to have attended conferences like these, and if you think back about 15 years or so, when you would have a panel or a presentation on sustainability, it was a little bit exotic, or you'd have to go get somebody from TerraCycle or Greenprint or South Face, or you'd have to find somebody who just thought it was a good idea to start an institute at a place of higher learning and thinking, hey, here's an idea. Why don't I leave a successful private sector career, and I'll start an Institute for Sustainable Practices. And I will say that we're very fortunate to have somebody in our audience who is actually walked the walk in that way as well, Dodd Galbraith, who has been a pioneer for sustainable practices in the state of Tennessee. And if you fast forward to today, to 2022, it is tremendous to sit in the breakout sessions, as I was yesterday, going between water reuse and hearing Dr. George Garden talk about the triple bottom line and people, planet, and profit. You go into emerging engineering techniques for landfill design, it's sustainable landfill design. You go into any of these energy topics on renewable energy and the EV explosion and the transition in the marketplace for electric vehicles and where that ecosystem is going. And then, of course, materials management and recycling. So it is definitely permeated. It's almost part of the culture, and it's integrated, and it's what Dodd always talked about, where it became interdisciplinary and it just became embedded in the organizations. And so what we thought would be a good capstone to supplement and complement the breakout sessions would be to hear from some of the individuals leading organizations that are the tip of the spear in their community, or whether it's a city or the leading nonprofit in a leading edge city like Chattanooga, and to hear what they're doing from program design, development, what's working, and really see how it all fits together. And I guess thinking about the interdisciplinary nature that folks like Dodd always remind me is that if you look across the stage, to my left you've got Michael Walton, Executive Director of Green Spaces Chattanooga, who's a trained architect. One of those, he's a great example of place-based recruitment. So a trained architect coming out of UT, Greenville, Tennessee native, goes to Washington, D.C., but gets lured back to Chattanooga because of the awesomeness of Chattanooga to take on the Executive Director role at Green Spaces. And then you've got Dr. Kendra Abkowitz Brooks, who is a policy expert, Ph.D. From Vanderbilt, MBA from MTSU, Master's from the University of Chicago. I guess if you were a college coach, we'd refer to her as a high motor kind of player, just one of those all-star people, high energy, passionate about what she does, leading the city of Nashville in their sustainability and resiliency effort. Next to Kendra is Robin Peeler, who is like the Swiss Army knife in Tennessee State Parks. More than 20 years of experience. She's been not park ranger, park manager, director of our Division of Natural Areas, now an area manager for 6 Tennessee State Parks in East Tennessee. And before that, she jumped out of airplanes for the U.S. Army, so she's an outstanding state veteran employee and just a tremendous asset to the department. And on the end is Eric Schmidt, who is the sustainability director for the city of Chattanooga. And I like to pick on Eric because not only is he a Baylor Bear, but he also worked for the Georgia Department of Transportation back in the day. So as environmental scientist and ecologist, kind of a biologist by training. So you see with an architect, a policy expert, a park ranger, park manager, an environmental scientist, ecologist, you see the interdisciplinary nature of people who have come up through that role and responsibility of leading organizations and being responsible for programs and sustainability, and it picks up a lot of different perspectives, and yet they pull together people from across their organization to get things done. So this morning we wanted each of these 4 to kind of share the overview, beginning with just what is sustainability to them and what they're trying to accomplish, and then what they are achieving for their organization, their community, and we'll possibly talk through some application and lessons learned that might be useful for where you're at in your organizational and professional development. So I'll start with Michael and give Michael the clicker, and hopefully that it works. And he'll share a little bit about Green Spaces Chattanooga.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having us as part of this, and welcome to Chattanooga. As David said, I grew up in Greenville, went to UT Knoxville for architecture, moved up to DC, and when we were looking really across the country at where we were going to relocate our little growing family from DC, we came down to visit Chattanooga, and it really stood out as a place that fundamentally understands what sustainability means. And so, to answer that sort of question is like, what does sustainability mean for green spaces? Our mission is advancing the sustainability of living, working, and building in Chattanooga and the surrounding region. That's a 16-county footprint. We received the Tennessee Governor's Environmental Stewardship Award twice, in 2016 and 2020 for some of our programs. But when we think about like what does sustainability mean, David mentioned this idea of the triple bottom line. And so that is the framework that we use across all of our programs and the different spaces that we work in the region. So improving the quality of life for people, and improving the quality of the environment, and improving prosperity in our region. And so we do that in a range of different sort of spaces in this region. So we help people take these practical, effective, and affordable steps toward improving these triple bottom line outcomes. We do that at work, so with Greenlight, which is a green business certification. As we mentioned with Dodd, how do we take a business and help them integrate a culture of sustainability throughout how they think about their business? From Greenlight, we developed a professional certificate in partnership with UTC that helps give leaders the skill set to help understand how their business can impact these sustainability challenges and give them the tools to be able to integrate that culture change. And we also partner with Southbase that you just mentioned, with good use energy grants in the Chattanooga region, which basically help nonprofits with energy efficiency upgrades for themselves so that their fundraising dollars can go more to their mission. In the building environment and in the building industry, which is sort of my home, we developed a series of zero energy homes called the Next Gen Homes to demonstrate to the local building market how to do this. So building 4 homes at market rate, selling them at market rate, using local subs, off-the-shelf technologies, and just saying, hey, here's how to do it. On top of that, we developed a leadership and workforce development program called Build It Green, which is part of the AmeriCorps Opportunity Youth Service Initiative and part of this sort of emerging Civilian Climate Corps. And then we're just starting on a sort of commercial version of our Next Gen Homes, which will be a new home for green spaces over the next couple years. We plan to design and develop a living building similar to the Kendra building in Atlanta, if anybody's familiar with that. So we're going to have a regenerative design summit that'll kick that off in August. So if anybody wants to come back to Chattanooga, you can join us for that. Our primary community outreach and engagement program is called Empower. We launched that in 2014, and it was really based on a sort of shocking set of statistics, which is that while Tennessee has some of the lowest electric rates in the entire country, we simultaneously have some of the highest average bills in the entire country. And that falls disproportionately on low-income communities that don't have control over the quality of housing they have access to. So our Empower program teaches low-cost and no-cost ways for people to lower their electric bills. And we do those in communities in Chattanooga, but we also do that in partnership with Sethra in Marion, Sequatchie, Grundy, Bledsoe, Ray, Meigs, McMinn, and Polk counties. So really thinking about that experience of poverty and utility burden and trying to come up with both policy solutions and practical solutions to those challenges. On top of that, we've actually begin exploring the overlap between health and housing and how these improvements in energy efficiency in a home can actually reduce things like asthma, and we're looking for ways to actually pay for those improvements from healthcare savings. And so we've been working with TennCare and all of TennCare's MCOs, Blue Cross Blue Shield, United, and AmeriGroup, to actually build that funding mechanism, and we're going to get started with that later this year. So hopefully I'll have more to talk about at the next Tensos with our progress on that. So one of the things that we've been working on community-wide since 2018 with Eric is an integrated community sustainability plan. Now what we've been doing is sort of like the grassroots side. This is a community-based, sort of crowdsourced plan made up of 50 organizations, over 100 individuals that developed goals, strategies, and tactics across these 6 different areas. We then sort of handed that off to the city and the Kelly administration, and I'll let Eric talk more about what he's working on with that. But one of the most exciting things that we do that actually was just this past weekend, so I'm sorry that you all didn't get here in time, but we do this thing called the Chattanooga Green Prix, which is an electric car race for elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools, where they build their own electric vehicles and then race them around a racetrack that we set up with the help of the Chattanooga Sports Car Club of America. It is a spectacular event where these students are not only learning about the fastest growing industry in the state, I would imagine, in terms of the electric vehicles, with Ford, Volkswagen, GM, and Nissan all building EVs and attracting that supply chain. But now we've got students that'll be coming out of Hamilton County schools with 8 years of experience building EVs. So they're going to be the leaders in this growing industry. So, you know, at the end of the day, what sustainability means to me is leaving a place better than you found it. And I've got a 7-year-old and 10-year-old, both boys at home, and you know, I want to make sure that we are leaving this place in a state that I can be proud of, and that when they're asking me, like, what did you do about these challenges, I can say everything I could.
Thank you, Michael. Before Kendra goes, I was just going to say that I won't give Michael too much credit, but if you click on or pick up, if people do still pick up the Chattanooga Times Free Press hard copy, you'll see that TVA yesterday announced that they are putting $200 million annually into energy efficiency for resource or low-income challenged homeowners. So I think that what you've kind of you've ground truth with Empower and some of those. There's a lot of opportunity that they will be looking to you in some of the work that you've done in order to put that. I guess energy efficiency money to good use. So
absolutely,
congratulations. And before Kendra goes, I did short sell her a little bit on the front end, because as awesome as this panel is, she's definitely our most outstanding performer today. Having come in from Nashville, getting in town at 11:15 last night, and bringing Madeline with her this morning. When Camilla and Dave and I were talking about this panel, we said, can we get Kendra? Can we? And we talked to her in March and said, well, you know, my due date's coming up, and I don't want to pressure you or anything, but I'll be there. I'll be there. And I said, okay, well, we better have a backup plan. Sure enough, she just had her 4th child, and she was able to get down here and be part of this panel. So that just shows again how committed she is, passionate, but just personally, Kendra's been a tremendous person to work with. As Amy referred, or I guess noted earlier, Kendra was with us at TDEC for over a decade as our Assistant Commissioner Director for Sustainable Practice and Policy, just one of the sharpest, smartest people I've ever been around. And so it was just an absolute pleasure to work with her in the same department, and glad she's still representing us in the city of Nashville as the Chief Sustainability and Resiliency Officer for Mayor John Cooper. So Kendra, we're glad you're here today.
Thank you, David, and he's being far too kind. But thank you, and I'm excited to be here. It's fun to be back at Tensos. It's a great event, and I'm excited that we're all gathering together in person, and then some folks joining us virtually as well. So when I think about sustainability and what it means to the city of Nashville and my role, it's really creating a livable city for all. So folding in some of those triple bottom line concepts, looking at people, planet, prosperity, with a focus on environmental factors, natural resource stewardship, to figure out how we make sure our city is well equipped to be responsive to the needs of all of our residents. I think that's become increasingly challenging, especially as Nashville has grown exponentially in recent years. and we're seeing, disparities between various different groups increase. So I think we have real opportunities moving forward to focus on that, and again, making sure it's a place that everyone can call home, that is responsive to everyone's needs. As David noted, that also I think provides great opportunity to harness the interdisciplinary of sustainability and concepts like resilience. So one of the things I love about my role in being located in the mayor's office is that I get to call on various departments across metropolitan government, various partners in the community like our amazing nonprofits, other folks at other levels of government, including state government, federal government, the private sector, and residents to help kind of lead that charge. And so it's a really exciting time to be able to pull in all those different resources and areas of subject matter expertise to try to get things accomplished. So what I wanted to talk about today is a little bit about where we've been in Nashville and then where we're trying to go. There's a lot of content on these slides, so I'll try to hit on the high points to make sure we have ample time for other panelists and then also for discussion. One thing I want to note about Nashville is that we have done a really incredible job of thinking about sustainability, environmental stewardship, and resilience over the years. And those efforts really kicked off in 2009 with the sort of the Green Ribbon report that was created. We then followed that up with a Livable Nashville plan, probably about 5 years later. And then most recently, under the Cooper administration, prepared the Sustainability Advisory Committee's report on climate action recommendations. And those were presented to Mayor Cooper in 2021. So we have a really rich and robust history of thinking about the topic and planning for it. We have not been as strong when it comes to implementation. And so one of the things that's very important to me in my role is how do we actually execute? Let's stop just thinking about it and talking about what we need to do. Let's, transition into actually taking action. And so that is a real focus of my role moving forward. I wanted to quickly share this quick graphic about the community's greenhouse gas emissions and carbon footprint. And the reason why I think it's important is when we look at our contribution to mitigation of climate change, there's an opportunity for us to try to be strategic in where we spend our time. So in local government and really in any organization or agency that you're in, you have limited resources and you have to prioritize where you spend your time. And so I like sharing this graphic because I think we have some good data points, and we'll actually talk about this here in a minute, but we'll have a third data point later this summer that will allow us to understand, again, how greenhouse gas emissions are trending and where we're seeing the most significant contributions to those greenhouse gas emissions from activities that occur throughout the community. So I think the big takeaways from this graphic is we know that transportation across the community is a huge contributor to greenhouse gas emissions in the community, and then collectively looking at our consumption of energy, whether that be in the residential sector, commercial sector, within government, in things like our buildings, is also a huge opportunity area. I also wanted to provide a little bit more detail on our current Mayor's Sustainability Advisory Committee. So this was a group that was called together in 2019, shortly after Mayor John Cooper came into his role as mayor. And again, I think the idea here is how can we leverage all of the amazing and incredible experts throughout our community who have been doing and committed to sustainability work for quite some time to help inform what the city prioritizes moving forward. Also recognizing that we can't do it alone. We need to leverage existing work that's ongoing and resources that others may have available to execute and get that work done. So this group was called together in 2019 and really spent a good year meeting as working groups to refine and hone in on some key strategies that we'll be moving forward with in the future. And as you can see on this slide, it's a pretty robust group. It's a very diverse group. There are about 60 individuals who are on this group. So a little bit more about those recommendations that I shared with you before. That plan that I referenced was put forth in 2021. It actually is comprised of 294 individual strategies across 6 topics, which is a lot. It's very impressive. I think that speaks to the commitment and the enthusiasm that participants had for these topics. The only challenge with that is that it's very difficult to actually follow through and execute on each of those. And so the co-chairs of that committee worked very closely with the working groups in the different topic areas listed here to consolidate those recommendations into about 40 high level and very kind of refined strategies that are going to have the most kind of bang for their buck as it relates to greenhouse gas emissions. So again, thinking back to where we see our activities resulting in climate impacts, how do we make sure that we're aligning our strategies with those opportunity areas? So those were presented to Mayor Cooper in January 2021. And then when I came into my role, I said, well, gosh, 40 is still a lot. So let's get it a little bit closer to 10 to 12. And so that's the process that I've been working through since coming into my role. And now I'm really actively trying to refine those with community partners and departments so that we can tee up responsible parties, access to resources, so on and so forth. So I'm not going to cover all of these, but I did want to spend a little bit of time celebrating our successes, because I think that's really important, particularly in a space where it may be 5 to 10 years before you can actually kind of see the fruits of your labor. So a couple of things that I think are worthy of mention. Metro government has adopted a very aggressive renewable energy standard, and that is to really basically have 100% of Metro General Government's operations powered by renewable energy by 2041. We're actually 1/3 of the way there, or will be 1/3 of the way there once we have a 100 megawatt utility scale TVA Green Invest solar project that comes online here in a little over a year. So we're really excited, but we still have a whole 2/3 left to go and are working towards the strategies to figure out how we'll get there. We also have made significant strides in terms of looking at tree canopy restoration. So as I mentioned before, Nashville has seen a lot of growth and change, and with that has come land use changes and removal of tree canopy, destruction of tree canopy. And so one area where we're trying to make sure that while we're growing, we're recognizing those impacts and trying to restore some of those natural resources is in terms of looking at restoration both on public property, so metro properties, including private properties. And so a major achievement that we celebrated in February was actually creation of a private funding stream, essentially, for tree canopy restoration on private properties, which is really, really unique. As far as we're aware, it is a first of its kind funding mechanism in government. One area that I think we have also emphasized is making sure that we're placing leaders that have a focus on sustainability in the environment in critical roles. And so Mayor Cooper has placed 2 NES board members as part of the NES leadership team who have really robust backgrounds in energy-related issues and environmental stewardship. And so that's, I think, having a critical role in changing some of the decision-making that's happening with regards to our electrical grid at a local level. So we're really excited about that. We also are taking significant strides in the solid waste management space and recently began requiring waste management plans from commercial and multifamily residential projects valued in excess of $50,000. That might not sound like such a big deal, but that's the first step in the process to understanding and putting in place more robust regulatory requirements associated with construction, demolition, recycling. So first we have to understand where we are, have a good idea of what the volume of activity looks like, and then we can develop an appropriate structure around that, regulatory structure around that that's aggressive yet achievable and feasible. And then one of my pet projects that we launched actually last month, right around Earth Day, was development of an environmental indicators dashboard. So again, you can't improve what you're not measuring, but you also, can't take credit for your achievements if you're not being transparent and accountable to the public. And so, again, recognizing the interdisciplinarity of topics related to sustainability and environmental stewardship, we've created kind of a one-stop shop dashboard that tracks a lot of really critical data points related to sustainability and resilience. And so it's very much a work in progress. So we did launch that initial version last month, but we'll be adding to it over time, and we're really excited about that. We've got a lot that we're doing moving forward, and again, I won't touch on all of these, but just a few of them. So I mentioned earlier, we're creating that third data point in our trends on greenhouse gas emissions. That will be based on 2019 data, and we hope to have that wrapped up later this summer. It'll let us know how we're doing. Word on the street is that our emissions went down between 17 and 19, which is really, really great, but again, we still have a lot of work to do. We're in the midst of a 600-site solar feasibility assessment on metro properties. What that's going to allow us to do is understand which of our buildings and real estate are well suited for potentially siting solar installation. So we're really excited about that. It'll provide some resiliency, but also help us achieve those renewable power standards we spoke about earlier. We're going all in right now on EV infrastructure and fleet electrification. So I know that is a topic that's covered in a lot of sessions during this conference, and it's really important to us both in terms of looking at our metro fleets, whether that's transit fleet, school bus fleet, light duty fleet, heavy duty fleet, but then also making sure that the community is well equipped with EV infrastructure. So those are both significant priority areas, and later today I'll be talking about how we're planning to harness some federal dollars to make that happen. We also know that with that development, stormwater management has become more and more challenging, and so there's a lot of really exciting studies that are being done right now to look at a more comprehensive and strategic approach to managing stormwater across the city, and using low impact development strategies to manage that. And then finally, I want to touch really quickly on the concept of resilience hubs. They're a new concept, but not really a new concept in that I think community centers have been used as resource hubs and disaster response centers for quite some time. But what we're trying to do is really strategically use some of our community spaces to provide what I would say more community-focused programming, particularly looking at equity and some of those overlap areas with environmental stewardship during probably 99% of the year. But during that 1% of the time where we may have an extreme weather event or some other natural disaster or a pandemic that we're dealing with, how can those locations be flexed to provide response and emergency support for communities and then recovery for months after that. And so we're planning to pilot 3, maybe even 4 of those over the next year with potential expansion beyond that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Robin.
Great work. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Come on. Okay, awesome. Good to see you. Thanks for having me. I've usually set up a booth, and I've had a couple people say, "Where's the birds? Where's the snakes?" Sorry, I didn't bring them this year. Next year we'll be back. But we have some parks right in the Chattanooga area that have come with me before and set up, and it's been fun to see people again after we're getting back together in person. So I am an area manager for state parks. I oversee 9 parks in the east and upper east area of the state. Used to be over Chattanooga, but we reorged a few years ago, and now I'm just up east from here. So my main job is really all facets of park operations. More of a fun job for me and a passion project is this Go Green With Us. And fortunate for me, I was able to get my supervisor's support years ago, and we started the sustainability program in the park system. And it's it's really grown and it's been fantastic. We've had a lot of support from other agencies or other divisions within TDEC. Most importantly, the Office of Sustainable Practices has been with me the whole time, another division within TDEC, so couldn't do it without them. I run the program with Kelsey Davis, who is an environmental scientist with that division. She's fantastic. She'll be here later today. But we started Go Green with us in probably 2015, which is mandatory recycling. There wasn't recycling in place in the park system everywhere. So we kind of got our act together and really made it all across the board. And then 2 years later, we launched the Sustainability Initiative, which is really broad scale and includes all kinds of things. Our goal really with sustainability in parks is just to reduce our environmental impact. So we have 56 parks all across the state. They're all different. Most of them have facilities. We have inns, we have restaurants, we have cabins we rent, we have lots of campgrounds, we have marinas, hiking trails, lots of natural spaces. So our goal is just to take care of those areas. They need a lot of work in some cases, but to reduce our environmental impact while we're there. So we came up with the guidelines. Originally, it was just an idea to tell the parks like best practices, like what to do, what not to do. And then we decided maybe it would be more fun and encourage them more to kind of make it a tiered program with points where they actually fill out what they do. So it developed into this full-blown guidelines, which they're on our website, and you can see the website there at the bottom. You're welcome to look at it and replicate it. It's turned into a really great program. But the 9 categories that we focus on, you can see them there: education and outreach, energy, water, habitat and resource conservation, guest services, which mostly is our hospitality division, includes our cabins, think of linens, restaurants, that sort of thing. All of our maintenance operations throughout the park, and transportation, which includes our fleet management, water conservation. So just every facet of parks is what we've worked on through the Go Green guidelines. So they've been in place 5 years now. We started our 6th year. It's going really well. We update the guidelines every year so that the parks get the most current information and best practices that are out there. Think about over time, just some things are not as important. There's new technology that comes into play, so we really keep them current and up to date. We update them like through the summer and the fall, and then by January 1st, we launched the new guidelines. So we just came out with the new 2022 guidelines, a few months ago. But as the year ends, the parks submit all the work that they did for the previous year, and we rate them. I have a lot of help within TDEC. We go out to the parks and we actually do an audit, and we meet with the Go Green contact at the park, and they show us the projects they've been working on, and then they get their rating. So bronze up to platinum. Really, really fun program. Again, a lot of support around it. We award them in Earth Day, so hopefully you might have seen, if you're in Tennessee, you might have seen our press release, but we had 28 platinum parks this year. So awesome. Everybody's just getting better and better. We're going to have to make the program a little harder, I think. So I just have a few photos. I didn't go with much text. I just wanted to kind of show you some cool things that we've done. So on the top left there, those are bookmarks we did a couple years ago, kind of an outreach component of the program. Part of Go Green with Us is not just for the staff, but it's Go Green with Us. We try to educate the park visitors on what we're doing and hopefully inspire them to take some of these activities home and do them in their own life outside of the park. But the bookmarks are really popular. That little red flower is native seeds, and they would take the bookmark and then have the flower seeds. And again, super popular. We need a grant to do those. They were kind of expensive, but we're working on that. And there were some tips on there. We do outreach events throughout the year. Earth Hour has always been optional. The park system has participated statewide in Earth Hour the last 2 years. Anybody ever heard of Earth Hour? You know what Earth Hour is? Awesome! Yeah, Earth Hour was started, like 10 years ago by the Wilderness Wildlife Fund. And it's just awesome. But everybody turns the lights off for an hour all over the world, and we started getting people in the parks to do it. They love it. We put little signs up. Some lights, for security reasons, maybe don't get turned off, but it was a real popular program. We added another project we did a couple years ago. We added our first small solar array at Indian Mountain State Park. This picture is at one of our bathhouses, and it took a lot of work to actually get it all in place to actually be able to sell the energy back to the power company. But we did it. We want to do more of it. We're looking at solar. For us, it's a little expensive. The administration is super supportive on anything we do that's green, but we have to be able to afford it and show that we're getting a return on investment. So we're working on solar. We hope to do a lot more of it. The bottom left is a picture of just window film that we put. A lot of our visitor centers with the large windows, we've added window film, which improves the energy efficiency of the building, so you see that. It also helps keep the birds from flying into the building. We've noticed that's a good thing. The next picture, kind of in the middle, is some shielding of light. So one thing we're really interested in the Park Service is protecting the night sky, keeping it dark. So dark skies are really important to us. It's in the guidelines. A lot of parks, anytime they switch out lights, they have to go with shielded downward lights. We've replaced so many of our lights. We have one park that's an international dark sky park. We have another one, Rocky Fork, up in East Tennessee, that's in the middle of its application. So we have almost 2 parks and many more that are super, super dark. So we do a lot of astronomy programs, and but the shielded lights, keeping the light down, it not only saves energy, but it's also just better for ecology and wildlife and people too. So the last picture on the right is really the only natural picture I had, but we have a huge push to reduce our mowing in state parks and to protect pollinators. So old days in the parks, mow perfectly green, manicured. We're trying to get away from that. We keep our edges nice and green in our fields where there's play areas, but we're trying to go with native habitat, so native grasses, native wildflowers, lots of space for wildlife, nice edges, and definitely promoting our pollinators, especially our native pollinators and native bees. So a couple more pictures. On the left there, those are the amazing recycling bins we got a few years back. We had a huge grant, a lot of support, again, throughout TDEC, but the money from those came from the Division of Solid Waste Management. Thank you, Solid Waste. Tons of bins, and Office of Sustainable Practices made that possible, but the ones at the bottom are bear savers. All across the parks, uniform bins. We were so thrilled about those. Those are pretty much outdoors, and the ones above there with our logo on it, those are the indoor bins. So you should see those when you go to any park. We've had some struggles with recycling lately. If you know much about recycling, you know some things are not as easily recyclable as they used to because of the market. So parks, they're all different all across the state, but we just ask the parks to recycle what their county recycles. So when you visit a park, you may say, hey, all they take is aluminum. It could be just because their county only takes aluminum. The middle picture is just a recycled product. I don't know if American Recycled Products is here. A great company. We've purchased a lot from them to do decking and fencing. This is at Seven Islands State Birding Park, a little observation deck that goes over one of the wetlands. So that's a cool sustainable project. Water bottle filling stations, which are amazing. I noticed they're all through this convention center, which I just love. We're trying to get those in every park. We have several in the parks. I think almost every park has at least one, but we need more. The middle photo is just representing our reusable items that we sell in our gift shops. We really are anti-disposable. Our park restaurants are not, given disposables unless requested, but we're promoting the reuse items. So those are just, that's a camp store where they sell like reusable cups and silverware, and we even sell the reusable straws now, so pretty cool. And the last photo there on the right is just composting. All of our park restaurants have food waste programs in place and pull out the wasted food, and we compost what we can't give away, so it's really awesome. We've got a couple EPA awards for that in the last few years, and we had some closures during COVID, and we're coming back on board with a few of them, but recycling, food waste reduction and composting is super important in our parks. And then just the last couple photos. Again, the outreach component is really big for us. So, we're passionate about doing a good job within the parks, but we love to bring people out and get them excited too. So just a couple cleanups. The one on the left there is Johnsonville State Historic Park out in West Tennessee. They're cleaning up the Tennessee River, portion of Kentucky Lake. And then that's Radnor Lake in the middle. If anybody's from Nashville, you might recognize that. With the weed wrenches there, we do a lot of work with invasive plant removal, which is also part of our habitat and resource protection. So that's just a quick summary. I'm sure we'll talk more, but I'll pass it over to you.
Can everybody hear me?
They'll turn you up.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome again to Chattanooga. Thanks for being here. It's great to be on this panel. I think this is a setup because I'm supposed to sweep the bases, but when everybody's hitting home runs, there's no point. It's great to hear the efforts all across the row here about their cities, how nonprofit organizations can impact our community, how leadership can really set the pace in our state parks. It's great to see them getting even greener and lots of best practices there. So I am the Director of Sustainability. I sit in a new Department of City Planning, which is a part of our City County Regional Planning Agency, and which has a strong tie to the Office of Mayor Tim Kelly, who's come into office about a year in and is doing a great job in setting a path forward for Chattanooga, and laying down some really strong policy outlines. Sustainability is part of that. But really taking a holistic approach to the people in Chattanooga and the place. I'm from Houston, Texas. We talk about backgrounds, and so Houston, when I was growing up there, was pretty much the epitome of not sustainable.
Right. No zoning.
No zoning, those kinds of things, and just seeing duplicative rampant development, and visiting in Chattanooga 1997 for the first time. A phrase that wasn't in circulation a lot, but it had a sense of place. It felt sustainable. It felt like a history, and that is really what attracted me here. That, in addition to my wife's side of the family, luckily, so we had an anchor. So, so similar to Michael, it was an intentional choice to move here. So it's great to have a partner who's also working on this so diligently. So. Just want to, because Mayor Kelly's done such a great job with this, I just want to, you can see the high points there. Those are the basic tenets of the framework of his focus areas and his policy, and so all of those are critical to keeping our population strong, and it's obviously going through a lot of changes, not quite as fast as Nashville, but there's some historical things that really kind of have to be rectified to make Chattanooga livable for all people. So just wanted to make sure that those got flashed across the screen for you all. So really envy the programmatic work that Nashville has going on, and Michael talked about the Integrated Community Sustainability Plan, and I should pause and back up that was really an effort that Green Spaces saw a need for. 2009 was the last time the city of Chattanooga had done a climate action plan. Working with Green Spaces, we realized that a good deal, over 90% of the action items outlined in that had been addressed in some form or another. So it's time to take stock again. And so they also commissioned a community greenhouse gas inventory. That was 2018, Michael. That also showed that transportation is really what's driving greenhouse gas emissions. TVA's done a great job at reducing its carbon footprint and offering programs like TVA Green Invest to help us as partners move along. But the timing couldn't be better for the electric economy coming in Tennessee to address the largest bracket of greenhouse gases increasing. We are going to commission another one this year as an update to the one in 2018, particularly for sure with a focus on city operations, but hopefully also community, so that we can chart a path forward. So. Just wanted to get caught up there. The other piece of that, there's a mention of it later in here about a resilience report that we had commissioned a couple years ago, kind of during the pandemic, and that was really focused on city-owned assets. The scope kind of got narrowed down, and just in the face of changing weather events and climate, we needed to assess our risk based on those factors. So. Kind of catch up with what Michael was saying, we are basically in the process of looking at both the resilience plan, the ICSP, and really those two documents, along with Mayor Kelly's platform, is our driving force, and we want to work together with community partners and our internal operations to fund projects that we can move the needle based on those recommendations. So this is just a little background in terms of the city's energy efforts that we started in 2015. As Kendra said, you can't manage what you don't measure, so By 2018, we had met our 20% energy use intensity reduction within city operations, about 2 million square feet of real estate, and collectively, since 2012, have reduced our raw electric consumption and demand 25%, while increasing the number of metered accounts that we have. So a large part of that is the Moccasin Bend Environmental Campus, or wastewater treatment plant, that is a multi-county regional wastewater facility that uses over half of our energy. They have done tremendous work in not only protecting water quality and preventing, I think this was the first year with a when it's rain event 24-hour that we did not have an overflow on the West Bank. So our retention efforts are really improving. It takes time, as Kendra said. 5 years is like a month, I think, in most people's time. It takes time to put those projects together and build them and execute and start seeing the results. So it's nice to be able to show a highlight here, but those things take a lot of work and planning. Our energy reduction is the equivalent of taking 1,700 average Tennessee homes offline. It's kind of interesting to see that. And right now we're at about a 36% energy use intensity reduction. And we will continue to measure and manage the Department of Energy's Better Buildings Challenge program. Is a great third-party accountability program. So these are just some of the tactics that we've used: benchmarking, once again, measuring what you manage, the annual reporting with Department of Energy, retro-commissioning heavy equipment, building automation systems, which just make tons of sense. Turn the building off when you're not there. So we did a 60-plus facility LED retrofit, which had a tremendous impact on our bills. Again, the Moccasin Bend upgrades, the solar project that's generating over 10% of behind-the-meter power saved us over $400,000 last year. So that's talking about ROIs. That's the money talks. So, and then we're in the final stages of commissioning a microgrid that we have built in partnership, talking about critical assets. And I don't think it technically fits the definition of a resilience hub, because primarily those are supposed to be focused on community programming. But we looked at what is our most critical asset in terms of government operations and emergency dispatch response. We've had the tornado, which had an impact on our canopy cover, but it impacted thousands of people. And if we can't deploy our resources to help protect the community, then we're kind of stuck. We also have to be agile and be able to move into a modular state like we did. But we've got a new roof, new solar. Sorry, I got ahead of my slides. That's a picture of our Moccasin Bend wastewater solar. On the microgrid, we've got the new roof, new solar, battery backup, microgrid controller, and a new generator for the full suite to be fully islandable in the event of a power outage. We also recognize and appreciate the 5 nines of reliability that TVA provides and EPB as well with their smart grid. In certain cases, whether it's wastewater treatment or public safety, you kind of can't have too much redundancy. I think I covered all that. I think, and just kind of moving things along so we can get to the conversation, but what's next? We've got some projects in play. We've got some funding for electric vehicle infrastructure for both city operations, staff, and the public that we're planning. We've got some money set aside to put roof on our Development Resource Center, solar with a new roof as well, which is, if we've got we are the first city in Tennessee to be Soul Smart designated, to try to cut through some red tape to go find your permit, be able to pull a permit, get a response back in a 24 to 48 hour period. We want to make that easier. EPB wants to make it easier. So it's great if you've got a plaque in that building. It's better if you have solar on top of that building to back that up. So we've got that. And we're taking advantage of a VW diesel mitigation grant and replacing 7 heavy-duty vehicles with 4 propane, 2 CNG, and 1 electric as a way to open that door and really start understanding how to change our operations with new technologies. Again, One Chattanooga, the mayor's driving policy document, the resilience plan for internal operations, ICSP for both city operations and community needs, our greenhouse gas inventory that will help refine and define the lanes of work. And later this year, we're going to host a few climate adaptation workshops through a sponsored grant from the National Science Foundation. So keeping that conversation going, the people that Green Spaces has pulled together for the ICSP, our internal stakeholders, and make sure we're all on the same page moving forward and chart a path for some ambitious work in Chattanooga. Wrap it up.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. I get a sense from listening to this, it's very encouraging, even inspiring to hear what accomplishments and achievements are on the ground out there. I guess one of the questions I would have for each of you with the limited time we have left is, how do you, it's sustaining the sustainability initiative. Each of you has a role and responsibility, either as an organization or air traffic control over a very large portfolio or a passion project but people are, even true believers and folks who are excited about it and see what you're talking about, waste reduction, energy efficiency. Hey, the SSO at Moccasin, that's great achievement. It's like, but everybody's so stressed, and even in an audience like this is, how do you keep us all engaged? And you've got all these stakeholders. Is there a secret sauce to how you keep folks? I mean, obviously the way you've worked with the utilities are key. Between EPB, the local co-op that the park's got to deal with, NES, TVA. I mean, is there one or two things you'd advise us to say? How do you keep the momentum and sustain that forward progress that we're excited about, but we got to keep it going? How do we do that? Robin, how do you do that?
Yeah, so the park staff are the ones that really do the Go Green work on the ground, and they're so busy, especially we've always been busy, but since COVID, everybody's discovered the outdoors, and the parks are really slammed all the time. So we have tons of responsibilities at the park level, lots of reporting, and most of my Go Green contacts at the parks are park rangers, so they're doing law enforcement and resource management out in the park. They have administrative duties, interpretation. We get them to stay engaged. We send a monthly newsletter to kind of keep it light, give them some tidbits. They're required to do a monthly report for us on their waste and recycling, so we've got that coming. But really, Kelsey and I work hard to kind of keep it fun. And when we come up with initiatives, which we do that quite a bit, there's always new things coming down the line. We give a lot of lead time, so we prep them, it's coming, we make it fun, and we're just not so pushy because there's so many emergencies and real important things that they are dealing with. So one of the things we do is just try to keep it light, be supportive. We thank them, we don't overthank them. I've learned people don't like to be overthanked, they don't hear it anymore. So we keep it light and be supportive and be there for them, and then recognize them. In our newsletter, we do recognize successes and share things that the other parks are doing. We also offer, we were just doing an annual workshop. Now we're kind of doing a quarterly so they can interact. So a quarterly virtual workshop where they can just learn about new stuff. But that's kind of what we do, David, just to keep them motivated.
How do you keep your stakeholders motivated, Michael?
Yeah, I mean, so we use a phrase that change moves at the speed of trust. And so as a community-based nonprofit, there's a need there for us to make sure that we have a constant feedback loop with our stakeholders. And so for every single one of our programs, having advisory boards and that real built-in engagement, so that we're moving at the same speed as the people we're serving and bringing them along. Because one of the most difficult things that I know everybody in this room has faced is that sense of being overwhelmed, right? Some of these challenges are so huge that there's a tendency to just be I just can't, it's too much, I can't think about it. And so breaking it down to, you climb Mount Everest one step at a time, right? And so helping that person, that family, that business take that next step, right? And so, okay, don't worry about fixing it all tomorrow. let's focus on that next achievable action that you can see the results from, that builds that confidence, right? And that builds hope, and that builds that momentum. And then for, you know, an organization like Green Spaces, like that's how we keep funding our work too, right? So, you know, we're one of the I guess the only organization on the stage that isn't a government entity. Right. So like, you know, we focus on like diversifying our revenue streams, looking at everything from grants to corporate support to individual giving to you know, relationships with governments at all levels, and just looking at how we keep this work going through these coalitions and collaborations with all of our partners, because that's really at the end of the day, you know, if you want to go far, go together, right? And so building these coalitions, these strong partnerships is how it works.
Good point. Thank you, Mike. Kendra, how do you do it in Nashville?
Free food at meetings.
Free food at meetings?
I'm joking. So I think much to Michael's point, and Robin and Eric's, they spoke about this as well. I think leveraging partnerships is key. So instead of saying we can't do that, it's we may not have the resources to do that today, but here's how you can help get us closer to that, or here's how you can sort of do your part to help make this happen. I also am a huge fan of pilot projects for a few reasons. One, it may give you a smaller, you know, bite of the elephant to start tackling, but also it's a great way to sort of dip your toe in the water and tackle a smaller scope of work that may, again, be proof of concept that you can use to go all in on a strategy moving forward. I think probably the most important thing I've learned in my current role is just listening. So often, particularly folks who have been working with multiple administrations on sustainability projects, have felt like they've had to have the same conversation over and over and over again. So I think listening, hearing that out, and then really trying to break it down to what are 3 things I can do to be responsive to what they told me, even if it's not, you know, actually executing on their full request. Are there, again, things I can do to build that trust and to make them understand that I'm committed to being responsive to them? And then the last thing I'll say is I think there's huge opportunity to leverage the interdisciplinarity of sustainability. So in a resource-constrained environment, there are a lot of things I can do with our new housing director, Angie Hubbard, that directly address sustainability, but are hugely aligned and really actually communicated or marketed as affordable housing initiatives. You know, and that's just one example. So I think looking for those interdisciplinarities and those the nexuses where you can kind of insert or infuse sustainability is another great way to make sure that you're not only keeping your stakeholders engaged, but also then perhaps introducing others to the concept in a new way. But free food always works too.
Right. And I think all the folks on the stage would be characterized as many things, but one of them is dot connectors. You each are very good at connecting dots. Eric, is there any particular?
To not repeat anything anybody else says, I think the other thing for us as city government, Mayor Kelly has appointed some important, you have to have leadership and who get the concepts and who can. The other part is taking that. It's much easier to do this stuff if you have the support from the top down. And so from Dan Reuter in the planning division to Scott Martin in our parks, and you know, if he saw the native pollinator piece and reverting to grasslands and instead of maintenance, I think he'd be very pleased. But you know, another thing I think Mayor Kelly is interested in is identifying the passionate people in our departments that can help us have an internal team. So to seek out the opportunities, because that's what I tend to do, and sort of have been somewhat of a lone wolf in the past. So we have a larger apparatus, and so moving forward, and what has worked for me in the past is meeting people halfway where they are and looking for opportunities to leverage, such as rooftop replacements. Where can you find opportunities for projects that accomplish more than one goal instead of just single serving your lane. So, so that's a trust thing. And so those are just some items that I see.
And I thank each of you, because the reason we put this together was because, as Michael said, that sometimes you can feel overwhelmed, and it's helpful to take a step back and see what's getting done, what's getting accomplished, what it takes to get all that achieved. And Michael brought up a quote I hadn't thought about in a long time, but it is, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And sustainability is about going far. And that's what the folks on this stage are about, and so many people in this room are part of. And I hope you are encouraged, inspired, and also have a little renewed spirit about what so many of us are laboring together on. And so we appreciate what you do, and most importantly, appreciate what the panel, Eric, Robin, Kendra, and Michael. So I hope you'd give them a round of applause for their time this morning. So thank you all very much for being a terrific audience.
Thank you. You want to roll Geck? Geck is great.
Hello. Hello. Hey, everybody. I'd also like to share a big thank you to all of our sponsors and exhibitors who have contributed to and enhanced your experience at this year's conference. So without our sponsors and exhibitors, this conference cannot happen.
Welcome to GEC.
Hey everybody, looking forward to seeing you at GEC 2022 down at Jekyll Island. And don't forget the golf.
August 23rd through August 26th, Jekyll Island, Georgia Environmental Conference. See you there.
Come on down to the Georgia coast, learn a little bit, laugh a little bit. Georgia Environmental Conference is great.
If I can give you one reason to come to GEC, networking.
Hey folks, come to the Georgia Environmental Conference. Jekyll Island's a beautiful place. Hope to see everyone there.
We can't wait to see you in Jekyll Island.
I can guarantee you are going to get something super valuable out of this year's Georgia Environmental Conference.
Don't let the name fool you. This is really a southern regional conference with people from all over our area practicing, exchanging ideas, exchanging information, and exchanging business cards, which is always good.
We look forward to nailing down this program, making it the most incredible one for the 15th annual Georgia Environmental Conference. Can't wait to see you on Jekyll Island, August 23rd through 26th, 2022. Welcome back.